long do each of you work in a standard workday?
Oh, that was a good one.
There's
Yeah,
no
that
such
is a good
thing. Sometimes it's
I guess what? How much are we actually productive and good? I'm only good for about 6 hours.
That's tough.
6 quality hours, yeah.
Yeah,
But
and then
sometimes
it's
it's
gonna
3.
get dicey.
Sometimes it's 24. I mean, I literally just not too long ago woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, started painting, and I think I stopped for lunch, and I painted till 8 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. It was awful, and I'm sure I'm not doing my best work, but I got myself into a situation that's what it needed to be. But yeah, 6 hours I would say is
ideal.
That's what you want.
You think so?
That's what you want.
I think I
I don't
like,
think I'd push it too much further
like-
than that. Although we've all done more than that. But there's the all-nighter stuff.
No.
No, that's.
And I think the problem with
You
you
all-nighters,
don't do good. You don't good.
well, a
do
lot
good
of
stuff,
all-nighters
yeah.
I mean, like the movie industry was notorious. I did tons of it in my 20s, and it was terrible. But do you think it's? I mean, I think a lot of sometimes it's due to inefficiency. It has to do with the art directors and the logjam that happens between the client and then you, and then the indecisiveness. But to me, it seems like when you're doing those all-nighters, sometimes it's due to lack of
poor
training
planning.
as well.
Oh, yeah,
like
and poor
not
planning.
not knowing how to do your anatomy good enough, not knowing composition well enough. So you're trying to actually learn while you're on the job, which you're going to have to do. But you want to try to, I think, minimize the amount of big stuff you have to learn on the job while you're in school. I mean, I would say,
it's the workflow thing and procedures, and good analysis of the problem going in, and saying, figure out what's important about this, what's the least important, what's the center of interest.
Doing your comprehensive sketches, which seem to waste time. But
they really are not though. You get the values and
are
everything
useful.
figured out, and if you say that hand just doesn't look right, and you say, well, I'll figure it out later.
No.
Figure the hand out now, and
It
then do
always
the rest of the
gets
picture wrap
Well,
around
that's the
it.
problem, right? Because I mean, you calculate out the time, and you're like, oh, okay, I can paint a head in 3 hours, 2-3 hours. But what you don't calculate is that how long is it going to take you to paint that head 3 times because you didn't plan it out right, and now you have to repaint it twice.
Yeah.
And Phil Hale, I read an article with him. He said how many times can you get up in the morning and think the head's going to turn out okay that day? And so you have to plan it out. Because you wake up, you paint on that head all day, and it doesn't come out. You go to bed, you wake up the next morning, and you convince yourself that day is going to be different. And then you wake up the next morning, you convince yourself that, and all of a sudden you're 3-4 days behind because you kept convincing yourself that day was going to be different. When in reality, you sit down, you take the time, you do the comp work, and you make it
reshoot
right.
the photo,
or reshoot the
whatever.
photo. Yeah, exactly.
Get the right model, or call somebody up and do a couple photos.
But there's a bit of masochism involved in being an artist because you enjoy beating yourself up a little bit.
and it's so easy. I don't know. I'm pretty sure everybody here's had the same experience. But you do something that you think is red hot, and you look at it the next morning and you are flat horrified.
It's beer goggles.
I mean, it is
Beer goggles.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's exactly the same.
Artistic beer
You break up the next day.
And so you really need to do these little preliminary things and do them crisp, nice, but quick, and do them fast and be skilled enough so that you can do a set of those and have the cushion to say, okay, I can look at these tomorrow morning and decide which one of these is really the one with new clear eyes. Which one of these is really the one that I should pursue?
Well, there was an advertising artist that recently passed away, and pretty much his deathbed statement was exactly that, how the industry had changed over the course of his 60-year career. And he said that's the thing that changed. It used to be that you would do your work as a group, you would look things over at the end of the day, and then you'd come back the next morning with fresh eyes, and then you'd be able to cull down the stack even more. He said, now that doesn't happen. He goes, then it became, okay, we have over lunch. And then it became, oh, we have over a drink. And then it became, we have over a bathroom break. And it's like you didn't ever get a chance to come back with fresh eyes on stuff. As illustrators, it's not as big a problem. I mean, as print illustrators, I should say. But in advertising, and that's the way it is. It's such a fast turnaround. You don't have those fresh eyes on anything anymore.
This kind of goes a little bit back to what we were talking about, the technology thing. But Eric and I are part of a crit group. So this is an awesome part of that, is being able to take your work and show it to someone else, go, look, I need a fresh set of eyes, what's not looking right. And you got 6 or 7 people, other artists, working on sometimes a similar project or the same project, and
that's really great. Yeah, that you guys do.
And
that.
we're all really good friends, so they're
Right.
not afraid to call you on your BS too.
Right.
Like, I mean, sometimes it'll
That's
be
the
pointed
key.
out,
You want to
like,
have
you're
that.
that's not good. What are you asking us for at that point? You're not asking for a crit. You're asking for a bailout. And they're good enough friends that they'll call you on it. They'll call you on it.
That's cool.
So.
How about deadlines, Jeff? How do you meet them, and what happens if you don't?
Yeah, a lot of times, I mean, in commercial, obviously, we talked about that a little bit in the beginning. The deadlines can be flexible if you are honest and forthright and extremely good, and they want to work with you. I mean, if they don't want, I mean, again, if they're not going to use you again and they don't like what you're doing, then it's going to be problematic. If they love what you do and you're honest and you're a really skilled person, I think they're going to probably bend a little bit for you. But you don't want to take advantage of the fact that they're lenient all the time. Maybe every once in a while. As far as fine art, the deadlines are very cryptic and odd, although sometimes, and then other times, like then they might say, we want you to do a one-man show next August, and we need 30 pieces. Good luck. And you're just like, holy crap. Okay, so I got to, so then you got to get really multitasking. You have to be good at multitasking. You can't be a procrastinator. You got to follow through. I usually do all my comps, photo shoots. Usually have a theme in mind. Then it's either go retrieve photo shoots through traveling, which costs money and time. Then it's coming back and doing all your preliminaries, arranging for your frames to be custom made so that they arrive in time, crating, shipping. It's a nightmare, logistical nightmare. And then it's just all got to be there by August 16th for the opening. And the gallery never calls you. They don't check on you. They don't see if your work's looking good. Just it better arrive and it better be nice. And if it's not, you're gonna have a crappy show and you're gonna be out of the gallery. So it's different. I mean, it's not. In some ways, I wish there was some art direction. I wish there was a little bit of hand holding. But in fine art, man, it is really literally just you have to be. And that's why I think the best fine artists are ex-illustrators, because they come in with an understanding of deadlines, with an understanding of executing on time. So when you have to come up with a fictitious deadline for yourself, you're very aware, okay, it takes me about X amount to do my comps. Painting normally take me 2 weeks if nothing goes wrong. But see, what happens is if you're like on one of those 30 painting things and you have a style, that's why you see a lot of conservative styles that people go more with a conservative bend on their style because they have to. Because if you're doing like that fetching style and you get the chances of rolling the dice on a one-off every time and it goes south on you, now you're 2 paintings behind. So instead of doing 1 painting in a week, next week you're going to have to do 2 paintings to catch up to the amount of paintings that you promised them. And you can get in really big trouble very quickly if you flounder some paintings along the way. And so that's just one of the things I had a hard time with. But I'm really good, luckily, with multitasking and following through. But that was something that no one could really prepare you for. And I think that's why the ex-illustrators seem to be so tailor-made for a second career in fine art. Is that they're just more tenacious, they're faster, they're quicker, they're more efficient, they're used to deadlines, they're used to all that kind of stuff. So it works really well. But yeah, deadlines are tough, man. They're tough in different industries. The movie industry is probably the worst. The gaming industry is not much better. They're right behind them. And then you've got fine art, which seems like it's some leisurely golden promised land, but it really is. It isn't. Again, I think the big difference that I found between illustration and fine art was in illustration you can hit a triple and still get paid, and in fine art, if you have an educated collector, you hit a triple and they wait for a home run. They don't have to buy it. There's no mandatory, I need to buy this piece.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll wait until he does a better one. And it could have still been a phenomenal effort, but they're waiting for the phenomenal effort. So you're trying to hit home runs every freaking time because they don't pay for triples, really, a lot of times, or even doubles. In illustration, you can sometimes get paid for a double, triple, and still get a job, still keep going with that client. But it's different in fine art. So because no one has to buy it, you're really at the mercy of them buying it whenever it tugs on their heartstrings and they really love it. And that's just a completely different, I found a different kind of.
It's not a necessity.
It's not a necessity, yeah. Whereas in illustration, I think the
market.
job is a job that's selling a product, it's selling a book cover, it's selling a cover for a video
Concept.
game. And so it's going to get put out, and if it's decent, yeah, cool, we'll give you another job. But if it doesn't have to necessarily always be a grand slam. It'd be nice if it was, and there's guys like Rockwell that did hit grand slams every time, but that's like 1 in a billion.
Well, that's also kind of part of exactly what you mentioned is actually, while it is nice because you're paying the bills, can be one of the problems with illustration too, is that, there's a saying you can have 2 of 3, good, fast, cheap. And too often it's fast and cheap. And that's what they want.
Yeah.
And that's not chicken soup for the soul. That's not,
No,
you're not sitting there
no,
going,
it's not.
boy, I'm really glad I pumped that out really fast for, a crappy quality and,
Mediocre pay.
mediocre pay. Yeah. It's,
And the thing that you guys, though, and I have to say, when you talk about professionalism, but you also talk, this kind of dovetails nicely into like making a living at it, is you know, you've got the traditional, you got the digital, the traditional guys like you that do the traditional, then you get paid, and then you maybe modify it digitally, and then you sell your originals. That secondary market is probably, all you guys would probably agree that that's probably what's
These
really...
days, that line, I mean, people, like you said, it's like, what's the difference between fine art and illustration? That line, to me, every day gets blurrier and blurrier and blurrier. I make as much of my income off of selling
your
my originals
yeah.
and even doing private commissions, stuff that no one's ever even going to see in print, where collectors call me up and say, hey, can you do a portrait of, you know,
Iron Man
or, you know, Frankenstein, or, you know, whatever. It's like you're telling me I get to sit here for 3 or 4 days painting, you know, some of the best makeup design of all time, well lit by one of the greatest directors of all time, and I get to paint it for you, and you're going to give me money? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I can find some time to squeeze that in. Yeah, so yeah.
But that market is, I mean, yeah, because I think
great.
that, what is it, the imaginative realism, you know, you got
Yeah.
art renewal centers starting to acknowledge that, you got some of the New York galleries starting to want to push towards like Phil Hale type stuff, which is kind of on that fringe, but Jeremy Gittes, is it Gittes or
Gittes.
Yeah, he's awesome. I mean, like, so you got a whole slew of people that are starting to again blur those lines between illustration and fine art, and I'm really happy to see that, because really a lot of the best painters are over in illustration, and they really deserve the recognition that some of the fine artists are getting, as well as the price points. But it's just now starting to become that. You
When
know?
you get guys like Donato, what's Donato? Is Donato, you know, Gene Cole, is he an illustrator? Is he a fine artist? I wouldn't want to place a vote on that. Not now. You know, 10 years ago it would have been pretty easy, but now it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, just because he paints, you know, mermaids and, you know, Tolkien, and does that make it not fine art? It holds its own with any fine art I see out there in the galleries. I mean,
yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely that's changing as well. Definitely.
All right, Meta, what is your take on goal setting?
Oh, I have a lot of goals, but they always don't come to fruition. I think it's important to have goals because as an artist, you can kind of just live in your head in this little fantasy world. And I'm not talking about the kind of goals that, oh, you know, I'm hoping one day this will happen and this will happen. You need to have goals that are more concrete, something you can actually put one foot in front of the other and get to that goal and check that off the list. Yeah, you have to see a product from the goal. The biggest thing I've learned with goals, especially in the past, I used to set these really lofty goals that were just way out there in the universe. And then I'd fail every time and hate myself a little bit for it. I think it's important to set much smaller goals with a longer goal in mind, but taking the baby steps to get to that long-term goal is important. So I try not to be in a rush in my life to get, oh, I want to be this particular artist. I want to be like Morgan Weisling. I mean, that is always in the back of my mind. Who wouldn't want that fantasy? But it's unrealistic and impractical for me to think that I can get there in any reasonable amount of time. That could be a whole lifetime goal, and I may never even get to half of his level in my lifetime. But always knowing that, oh, that's something I would like to obtain. What are the things he does in his life that I can put into my life so I can be going in that correct direction? You know, eliminating distractions, making sure everything you choose to do, your choices, even taking care of your health, those types of things, they're all making sure you're following in that path to get to that goal that you want to make. So you might say, well, I want to buy this thing tomorrow and get into a financial situation that basically all your life now, like we did a kitchen remodel, and you know, I want a nice new kitchen, but then what you find out is you have to channel all your finances into that particular category, and it takes you away from your goal. So because I spent money doing that, now I can't spend the money to go and go to a show or a photo shoot or something that is closely related to my long-term goal. So I took a baby step this direction rather than taking a baby step towards my long-term goal. So for me, it's more about being realistic and practical and taking the small steps towards the long-term goal, but keeping that large goal in mind, because that's something I'm always trying to channel into and not allow myself to get derailed by flights of fancy.
But it is a really nice kitchen.
It is a nice kitchen. It's awesome. I mean, I wouldn't take it back, but at the same time, I realized it's just a thing, and that thing, that possession, takes away from the art goal, and the art goal is not really a possession. It's a memory. It's something it's
not
an
fun
active,
driven,
it's ongoing. Yeah, it's not.
But it's also
not
important to acknowledge
a
that when
money
you
thing.
take those side steps, there's nothing wrong with those side steps. You need things in your life aside from art. But you have to acknowledge that, oh, okay, like students will ask you, it's like, well, why aren't I getting good as fast as that guy? It's like, well, because you chose to do other things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, okay, you took a trip to Europe for a month. Man, I'd love to take a trip to Europe for a month, but that would take me a month that I'm not training, a month that I'm spending money on something else that then I have to work harder to
water
make
it
that
down.
money. Whereas that guy came here, that other person came here, studies full time, all the time, around the clock, doesn't spend money on, doesn't even own a car, and that's everything they're doing. And you just have to realize that there's a series of
sacrifices.
rewards for their
Sacrifice.
sacrifices. Yeah, and as long as you acknowledge that, there's not a problem. But don't
You can't
expect
do
to
everything.
It's the
Yeah.
delusions of grandeur that are the problem when you
Yeah.
start thinking, hey, I want this and I want that, and
Yeah, it doesn't
You can have
exist.
anything you want. You just can't have everything you want, and that's important to remember about life.
It's a good one.
I'll
He
ask
says
this
that to me
one.
a lot.
I'll ask this one to you, Robert. As far as the business side of things and getting paid, how long does it take, and how does it work exactly? And what about things like invoices and negotiating?
Those are good questions. I started out with a crummy salary for 9 years, okay, and learned how to do a lot of things. Okay, then we moved on to advertising. Oh, that was a bad period. Everything was 60, 90, 120 days to get paid, And I mean, it was just, you get paid when we get paid. And they were already the victims. Okay, so then the guy said, you don't do architectural illustration, do you? And I said, yes, but it's COD. And from then on, the universe hummed for quite a while, for
Yeah, you
about,
used to
for about 25, 30
Tell me
years.
that. Just ask you. I'm like, doesn't work. It doesn't work in one area.
No, it was amazing.
The only
Every
guy I've ever
job, you
seen.
bring it in, they give you a check, you go home, put it in the bank. That was the way you would like to have things work. Now, 2007 came along, in which everybody kind of got, a huge domestic stumble here, and since then, you're really lucky to get 30. So most of the occasional CODs, but not too often.
But it's a good point that it is negotiable. Like,
It
people
is
think
a
that
negotiable
whatever
that you can-
contract they
you
send
can-
you, that's what you're stuck with, and it's not the case, especially smaller companies.
Yeah, and I mean some companies like San Diego Zoo Global, which is just a huge organization, and they'll pay usually 15 days. They say 30, but they usually 15. So they're very good normal float kind of client. But no, the COD is something that I try for, but the times they are a changing, like the man said, and you can't. They want the two, the quick and cheap. That's what the universe has kind of come to now. It's quick and cheap.
Yeah.
And there's only so many. There's only so many Kardashians in the world that can just get whatever they want, money-wise for what they do. The rest of us are scrapping at the bottom end of the bin, it seems like, because it really, architectural illustration that used to be X amount is now 0.5X. And that's just because of this whole thing, this stumble that we just went through. And in the meanwhile, everybody got used to getting by with photoshopped, crummy, pasted together, cheap solutions for things. And now it's become, de rigueur. It's the way it's done, but we don't spend money on that. I just soon have a new watch. So
You have to wait for the pendulum to swing back the other way, where someone comes in as a craftsman organization and makes their money off of doing quality product, and then other people start competing with them. But it takes a long time.
No, these kind of shifts are
long time.
very long, slow swings. And, it's true that some developer, some architect, this could be, and this applies to any business, it doesn't matter, will come in with a really good product that they have obviously shopped the people that are helping them out very carefully, paid good money, and now they make everybody else look like garbage. And so, like what you're saying is absolutely true. Eventually that can happen, but boy, it can, you can get caught in just anything. It would be just a little slump. It's like, the movement of the Pacific plate doesn't matter to the earth. But for us, it can be, it can be a real jolt, and so the things that you want to move fast move terribly slow, and you can just perish while a trend is changing from from orange to blue. I mean, we're just going through that little color shift, and sometimes those things can take 20 years. Well, 20 years can just take you out of the game. So but it is the payment's a very, very important thing, and it's really important. There are a couple of things that go with this. It's very important to get authorization to proceed with something that's in writing, a PO number, usually a purchase order number, and agree on what you're going to get paid and how long it's going to take, and hope that they're good for their word, because there really are no real guarantees in this world. I mean, it's
Most people aren't looking to really stiff you, but they are.
no, but
tied on
they
the front
will
end or something, or-
occasionally because they get in trouble or somebody doesn't pay them or something rough happens. But the payment end of things is very important, and as artists, they kind of have us because we really enjoy what we do, generally speaking. And if it's anything close to our heart's desire, we're a total sucker. And we will work much harder, much cheaper,
for
much
peanuts.
quicker than anyone would have any right to expect from
When it's
us.
something you would probably be doing anyway.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
You can convince yourself that it's okay to take low pay when you're.
And there
you know,
are
when
a
it's something you're doing
handful of
anyway.
people out there that are painfully aware of this, that they take, great joy in exploiting that, So, let's see. I don't know about the if there's anything else in there. The only other sidebar I would put with this is that whenever you're doing work for somebody, make sure that the one person that needs to approve this thing is the person you get to talk to. Because if you talk to somebody underneath, and all of a sudden, the day the job arrives and you bring it in and you deliver it and you lay it on the conference room table, there's a guy at the end of the table that you've never seen before in your life. And he's the only one whose opinion ever mattered anyway. And so that can be, I think it was Norman Rockwell that said that, I will only deal with one person. And it's a subtle thing, and I don't know how you can enforce it, but it's something to be painfully aware of. The fact that you can think that you're doing. I did just what he said. And this guy says, I don't like blue, but it's an ocean. I don't like blue.
I think you pull that
You
off
know?
by being Norman Rockwell. That's the easiest way to pull it off. He's so good.
I
You're
know.
undeniable. That's,
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that is
That's your previous remark, where you said be good first,
Yeah.
because that is the one thing, that's the
and
linchpin
second
of-
and last. Be good.
and second and last. Yeah, that's the thing that everything hinges upon, is how good you are, because everything else is just.
and you're only as good as your last piece,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Someone's
gotta
always going to pay the best, and someone's always going to want the best, and so they'll always be out there.
That's your
Yeah, you got to be cool too, though. That's the thing. I've seen
Yeah.
people who are super good, and they're just
Absolutely.
they're driving their careers into the ground because
Absolutely.
they're hard to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
Yeah,
fact, being cool goes a long, long way.
Yeah,
Being easy to work with.
Yeah, good. I
Goes
mean,
a
we've
long,
seen
long
so
way.
many cautionary tales about that over the years, and I think I would mention that to somebody. Just, I think in the hand when I wrote these up, I put be cool, be cool, and don't. It's a small world out there. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what's
Very
going on, and
small.
man, you make the wrong people mad, and you're pretty much guaranteed to be, so huge egos. You see them in some of these young kids coming out of art school and stuff, and it's like the best advice. Like when I did a LexCon a couple years ago, and I was doing portfolio reviews, and there were just kids coming in that I didn't even. It was unbelievable, the entitlement and what they were thinking they deserved, and it was like, wow. I mean, that just blew me away.
Well, I just don't see any reason for it either. I mean, even if
Yeah.
you are that good,
Yeah.
what are you gonna get from acting that way? I mean, sometimes I guess there's a mystique that comes along with it, and guys build this cult following by being that guy. But
But most
in
of those
the
are legit. Like
industry-
Phil Hale is that way, but he's legitimately that way. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just kind of on the fringe and doesn't really like dealing with people. And,
Yeah.
and he's good enough to pull that off. But most people
Yeah, you hear-
will say,
you hear
well,
a
that's
few
how I want to be.
stories,
I want to be
but,
like him. But your skill sets aren't like Phil Hale's. And you're like, it's not gonna. There's like two guys that can get away with that. And even then they shouldn't.
Yeah.
They should just be really cool. I'm not saying Phil because I love Phil. But I was just saying, a lot of times I think the arrogance, the prima donnaism, the idea that you're owed something, and that is a pecking order that you have to get in, and that
Yeah.
pecking order has always been there. It always will be there. Sometimes you can work your way up quickly through it, but you're not going to work your way around it or underneath it or over it. You just got to go right up through it. And the fastest is just be phenomenally good and phenomenally nice and cool and professional and hit your deadlines and do what you say you're going
I
to
just
do
don't
and
see
be
any reason
impeccable
to
with your
mistreat
word.
people, period. No matter what. I mean,
What's that?
it's,
Oh, no, and
yeah,
that's
there's no reason. No, I don't care how good you are.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
You know, I
And
mean,
again, communicate. You know, if they do something that you feel is legitimately unfair, just say, hey, you know, I'm trying my best. I don't feel like I'm getting the communication. There's still no reason to be mean or rude or bad about it. I've actually had jobs where it just wasn't working out, and I told them through the middle of the sketch phase, like, look, it's clear you're just not happy with what I do. I'm trying to give you what you want, so it might be best. I mean, if you have the time, go. I won't feel bad if you go get another artist, because clearly what I have in mind and what you have in mind is too far apart, and we're not able to find a middle ground.
Yeah.
As long as you communicate it that way. Again, communication.
Yeah.
Communication is huge.
yeah.
For each of you, what was one of your favorite jobs and least favorite jobs?
Holy.
Yeah, that's a
think we
tinder
are.
box, that one.
Yeah, everyone's all.
I still want to work.
I still want to work. Yeah, don't mention any client names.
Yeah.
I did aromatherapy that was bad. I had to illustrate
That was
aromatherapy.
awesome.
Oh,
That was so good.
so good. It was like spa, you know, little illustrations, and oh my god.
I thought it was cool.
Oh,
I
God.
mean, you gave them what they wanted.
Yeah, it came out
It
fine.
was a rough job, but you did a good
Yeah,
job.
there was a
of
bunch
it.
of them that back in the day, and you've done some horrifically crazy.
The tuna
Tuna
pizza,
pizza.
already, that was already
got
ordered
ours.
in there.
Lucas, how about yours?
Oh man, I'll talk about my favorite one. I did this piece for this guy. He was commissioning several artists, but he pretty much just let us go. He says as long as it has 2 dragons in it and like 3 or 4 women and a dog, paint what you want.
Dog.
I'm like, sweet.
There's a whole
I
reason
was gonna
behind it.
say.
Yeah, it's a private collector, and there's a whole reason behind it. So.
So that was a lot of, I mean, just the freedom he gave me. He kind of, just enough parameters that it was like, all right, I've got a subject here now. Do what I want to do with it. And that was just, I love that. I love a lot of you guys don't like that super big freedom, but I love that. Just,
But again, even what you said there, that's enough.
right. It's
You know,
just
it's like
enough.
they told you something they want in the image. Bob's talking about when they're literally just like, they give you.
Nothing.
Right, that's
So-
true.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Anything, just do anything you want.
My favorite job's easy. It was a strain.
Yeah.
I got hired to work
Oh,
on the strain,
you-
and I'm still working. I've been working on it for 4+ years, and that's been a dream come true, and it's led to other great jobs.
Matt?
That were also
I can
awesome.
only think of the worst job I ever
I
had.
can only think of the worst. Come
I
on.
was being on a mural, doing a mural project for 6 months.
The,
Uh,
the Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe
Uh-huh,
murals.
I mean, I love
Engraved-
working. I love working at Trader Joe's, but I hated doing the mural.
But you were in
project.
graveyard. I mean, you were doing like 4 in the
Well, it
morning.
was
too, or in the
actually I would
morning.
get up at 2 in the morning and get to work at 3 and work from 3 to 9 every day, and I had to stand on a ladder. And there was the worst art direction. I'd get a wall done, and the guy would come in and say, "No, that's too fancy. We need to make that look less fancy." So,
Coincidentally, that was also Miley's favorite job.
Because you were
I-
driving.
I went in with her a couple times and actually helped her with
I
it.
said,
so.
"Yeah, I said I can't do it one more day. You're gonna have to come with me and see what I'm going through." It was pretty horrific.
I remember that. I remember that
It
period.
was pretty
Yeah,
awful.
I was I'm never gonna get on a ladder again.
I did 4 years of calendars from
I remember
American
those.
Airlines.
Those are
That was
awesome.
my favorite, I think, of all the things that I had done. I mean, I've had some little small pocket jobs that I really, some conceptual things that I did that were tons of fun. But that was probably the most financially rewarding, easy client. I've always enjoyed aviation, so it was, and it paid terrific.
I remember those when you.
But it was a high pressure job in that you would have have to do 12 illustrations in 2 months. So you had 8 weeks to do 12 illustrations. And there was just like you said earlier, Jeff, you screw up on one and now you gotta do 2 the next week to make up for the one that
yeah,
took 2 weeks.
that's the hard pressure.
And that's the tough part. But it was, fortunately, not much of it went that way.
No, yeah, those were phenomenal.
And it was
So they wanted fast and good.
they wanted fast and
Those
good,
are the
and they
good
were
jobs.
willing to
If you're
pay
gonna
for
pick
it.
two,
Yeah.
those are the two that you wanted to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast and
Do you
good.
still have your calendars?
I do have them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
wonder
they're
if
not.
they're collectible.
I don't know.
They were all
think
gouache too, right?
they were all gouache. Yeah. It was, Yeah, it was a marvelous job, but I guess everybody's had one of those,
You
somewhere.
did some of those limited edition prints though, that were a similar type
Yeah,
of thing. They're
yeah, I
definitely
did those in
collectible.
oil, most
Yeah.
of them,
Those are
and,
phenomenal.
and I did some other stuff for American Airlines as well. But the aviation thing was just one of those little zones in your life. You say, well, it was a 9-year zone, yeah, but look how old I am. I got a lot of 9-year zones in there. And it's but and as far as going back to the goal thing, I keep wanting to if I could live to 250, I could think of every kind of project in the world to fill that time up, and
Blue
love
was
it
saying about
every
that.
minute of it. I have so many things that there just isn't time enough to
Not enough
pursue them.
lifetimes for it.
Yeah.
So it's I think if you can manage to get really excited, if you really like it. In fact, if you really aren't excited over this, I'd consider an alternative
I
career.
agree. Yep.
It's
Easier ways to make better money.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's very true.
Well, if you don't love it, it's actually kind of a suck job. I mean, it's not a
True.
good job if you don't love doing. What makes it a great job is that we love doing it. There's a lot of sad, lonely, self-abusive times spent just hammering things out. It's that part of it. It's not. It's
just beat yourself
Yeah, well, it's
senseless
like
because
tennis
you're not
sports.
pulling it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, you
It's
hate your own
similar.
guts.
Oh, you really did.
beat the hell out of yourself.
Big
Hoping
break
that you're gonna
brushes.
get, like every morning you wake up telling yourself that you're gonna be great, and every night you go to bed knowing you weren't. And you just want that one day where you get to go to bed going,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah, that was it. Today, for 12 hours, I was great. And then you just want that one day, and then you can go, it's all good. It's all good.
What a life.
Good
huh?
stuff. Good stuff. We're closing it up here pretty
Yeah,
soon.
I think
right?
we can close on this one. So I'll open it up to all of you guys. What would you have for advice for up and coming professionals?
Lucas, you
Should
start. We'll go through.
One piece of wisdom.
I mean, this is
Grow a beard.
Yeah.
for sure. I don't know, it's kind of similar to stuff we've been talking about. Just you got to be good, you got to be cool, you got to get your work done on time, get some good training. That's more than one.
Yeah,
piece of
I would definitely say the proper training, because I think you're what three major things is obviously where you're going to go to school, and then building a library, and then getting a studio. I mean, some place to work. So I think those three things are kind of rites of passages that everybody goes through, and a lot of people make the wrong decision about school, and then they got to go to other ones, and so just be careful about your schooling. Be careful about and just again love the craft. Learn to love the craft before you look at monetary compensation for it, if you can.
Yeah. I mean, it all comes back down to that thing where I see all too frequently with students where people are not really quite putting enough energy into this program because there is no time to waste. You have only a short window of high energy capability, and you want to use it right now and just draw until you can't stand. I mean, I just can't put enough emphasis on that. And most of the class I've been teaching lately, I've been trying to coerce, jam, whatever people into looking more. People aren't observing the universe well enough, and so if you can't remember things, you can't see things, you're not studying things continually, because that's the stuff that the really good people have. They have that ability to put the pieces together real quick right in front of you. You say, how did you do that? And it's really, I would say just work very hard right now and don't put anything off.
Yeah.
Get going on it
procrastinate.
and get on it hard. And all the stuff about the good training, obviously critical.
Yeah.
Too often I hear people when they come into class and they have they're ill-prepared, shoddy supplies, and their philosophy is, down the road one day, I'll get the right thing, or I'll have the good brushes and the
When I'm a
proper
professional or
equipment.
whatever,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I think to be a professional, you need to think like a professional. Take the same steps that you've seen other people who are successful take. I don't think I've known any successful artist that paints on a piece of cardboard out of unarchival materials and feels confident in what they're doing.
Buy the best materials you can reasonably afford.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go
Don't put yourself in a
Holbein
poorhouse,
or,
but,
Yeah.
Holland, but
Or maybe
still
go-
get decent. I always tell people you can get on eBay, you can get good quality Winsor Newton paints on eBay. You need to plan ahead, plan out your materials. Don't just show up at Aaron Brothers hoping that you're going to be able to find anything there to work with.
I guess I have two pieces of advice. One, don't ever stop learning. Don't ever stop being a student. As an artist, you always need to add new information, new knowledge to what you're doing. The other piece of advice would be, once you've taken a job, put the money out of your head. The time to worry about money is when you're accepting the job, and it's whether your time is worth what they're paying or it isn't worth what they're paying. Once you take the job, do the best job you can in the time allotted. If you take $300 for a job, well, that was your mistake. You took $300 for a job. If you have to end up putting, $1,500 worth of work into it, you have to put $1,500 worth of work into it. You took the job.
Yeah.
If you're nickel and diming yourself, saying, oh, if I put this many hours into it, then I'm only making $8 an hour. It's like, well, that was your mistake. Do the job you were commissioned to do, and do the best job you can at it. And down the road, don't take a job like that for $300 again. If money's that hard on you, go get a part-time job
Great
at Starbucks.
advice.
So.
Yeah, good.
That's good.
Well, thank you guys for joining me for this, and I know hopefully you guys enjoyed it out there, and we'll see some of you about, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll do more things like this, just little think tank kind of spitballing, kind of talking a little bit about subjects that might be of interest to the people out there, because I know when we were young and we were coming up, one of the hardest things, luckily I had a father that was a working professional, but that's not in short supply out there, and a lot of times you just don't know what to do. You don't know how it's like to work, or I'm amazed at how many times people just don't hear any of this. They don't know anything about the professional aspect of what it is to be a professional, what it means, what it represents. But anyway, best of luck to everyone out there, and keep a positive attitude about it. There's incredible opportunities that are coming that we don't even know about. The internet changed everything. Who knows what's next? But the whole world is driven by visual people. So I know we kind of probably sound occasionally like we've just been through a lot. So a lot of us are, we're battle tested.
Battle scars.
Yeah. So there's something great about that. So I mean, but it we're trying not to be cynical or jaded or any of that sort. But it is a hard career, very worthwhile, extremely wonderful. But you just got to go into it prepared, knowing what you're getting into. I watched my dad. I had my dad's career before I had a career, because I lived through it. I lived through the ups and downs, the feasts, the famines, the freelance roller coaster, that carnival that everybody goes through. So it shaped greatly, who I am and how I work and what I thought about being a professional. My dad's a consummate professional. I mean, one of the best I've seen as far as a role model. So for me, it was incredibly instrumental. If you don't have that, then hopefully these little podcasts and things will help you along your way and give you a little bit of insight into what you're up against and but look forward to it. Don't let the naysayers hold you down. It's no harder than being a professional. I mean, professional athlete, professional, anything that's cool. Sacrifice is going to be great to be able to be a professional athlete, or any of the fun stuff. And if you want to go into the more mundane stuff, then you're going to deal with the monotony of just a mundane job that you don't grow much in, and that's going to have its own problems, soul sucking, right out of you.
Well, be aware too, and self-educate yourself. There are resources out there. There are books that are out there that will teach you about contracts and.
Or take that in college.
Or artpack.com.
Yeah,
Jim's
exactly.
website is a great resource
Jim has an awesome website. And again, guys like him that are really spearheading this kind of stuff, definitely want to give a shout out to him, because I mean that's a very thankless thing to be doing, but I mean it's something that needed to be done, and he did it awesome.
There's sample contracts and reviews of clients. I mean, but there's other resources.
Well, the
as
internet now is a phenomenal resource.
I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah, so you guys have an easier time now going into the profession in a lot of ways than a lot of us did. So just take advantage of the technology, take advantage of what's at your disposal. Fight as hard as anybody else did to make their way up in that rung, that pecking order that we were talking about. And everything, usually the universe conspires to help you when you're doing great things, or you're following your heart and your true passion. So don't underestimate that. Don't underestimate anything. Just get out there, work hard, work smart, direct your energies with intelligence, and everything will be fine. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again for podcasts, Friday Night Lives, and other stuff coming down the road. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for tuning in. Take care.